distinguished guests, honorable audience, and my Bangladeshi diaspora youngsters. Shubho Bijoy Divas. Today I'm going to talk about the independence story, the story of our liberation war in 1971, what I have been through. It is just to give you a glimpse, predominantly focused on the youngsters who are either born here in this country or who came at a very young age and was raised in this country, who perhaps very keen to know about what had happened in Bangladesh in 1971, why we have such a big attachment, such a big emotional entanglement, and such a big patriotic resurgence in us to think about, to talk about the liberation war of Bangladesh. I was an 11-year-old young chap. We got caught up into the war. We were in a town very close to Dhaka, which is about 100 kilometers. The Pakistan army attacked that town with 3 saboteurs on the 17th of April 1971 at about 4 o'clock. And those 3 jets bombarded the town for about 40 minutes. And as soon as the saboteurs left, we could hear the Pakistan army entering the town from 2 ends, the north and the south, one end from Akhaura, the other end from Bhairab Bazar. And we had no choice but to run. We left everything in our house. My 2 young brothers, one was 8, one was 6. My sister was 15-year-old. My brother was 17-year-old, and my mother. We just left the house, whatever we had been wearing, nothing we could take, no things, no clothes, nothing. We just ran and ran and ran and ran. And believe me or not, guys, that running was the most tumultuous run of my life. And then, first night we stepped into a house where we could be housed inside the cowshed. Lived in the villages for another 20 days. And then we had no choice but to pour into the shores of India, because by then the perpetrators and the collaborators has just came out from the woodworks, and they were bringing in Pakistani soldiers into the villages, remotest villages, to hunt down the people who were pro-liberation war. Bear in mind that my father was in the government service in the East Pakistan Rifles, and he revolted meanwhile. People just could make out that we are from town and we speak different language. We are very conspicuous, looking like a sore thumb in the midst of all the villages. My mother was a graduate in 1956, and she used to speak to us in many words in English, and people thought, how can we be Bengalis? Are we either Biharis or we are Punjabis or we are somebody? So in no way we are safe, and we had no choice but to pour into the shores of India. The journey was 17-mile long journey, walking in the muds, in the paddy fields, water-soaked paddy fields, highly saturated with the monsoon rain, and every step you give in the aisle, your leg slips into the mud, and the mud was almost ankle deep to knee deep at places. And it had been raining like cats and dogs. We walked all this time in the rain. It was the most precarious rain in our life. And the fear of death The artilleries were bombarding right, left, and center. Any time a bomb could perhaps kill us. And we just ended up in India. First one night we slept in the open sky. Next day, there was a lot of trepidation. There's a lot of reservation. There's a lot of fear that what's going to happen when we walk into India? How are we going to be received? We are Muslims and we are fleeing to Hindu India. That was these reservations were working in our mind. But tell you the truth, once we walked in, the Hindu Indians embraced the Muslim Bengalis with their open arm. They gave us their room to stay, the utensils to cook food, gave us money to go and buy some quilt and clothes, gave us food, gave us fish, everything. Even the cook in the cooker and the cooking room, Rannaghar was given to us to cook our food. I just thought at that age, I was not even 11 at the time, I was almost 10 months old, 11 months old. And I thought, when Pakistani army was entering Brahmanbaria and shouting, Allahu Akbar, Ya Ali, and I was reciting the Quran, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. I have no idea how many million times I have recited those few lines. Perhaps that's why God saved us. But then I was confused that how is this going to happen? The guy who wants to kill us also uttering the same God's name. And I am trying to get saved by the same God and uttering his name. And then we pour into India and people from different religion. We heard so many acrimonious things about them. And they embraced us. That just made me believe that perhaps humanity triumphs over religion. Then staying in those Indian houses for about 6-7 days, finally we moved into a refugee camp. The life as a refugee starts from there. The 8 months I lived in that refugee, and I was the only man because my brother by then joined the freedom fight. My father was fighting the freedom fight in Sylhet sector. And my life started into a different spectrum. Life of starvation, life of destitution, life of insecurity, fear of death. Every night everyone else was sleeping. We were in a 12 by 12 room with no windows, nothing. It was cold. We didn't have no blankets. We were on the floors. And everybody was sleeping and I could just feel, I was to think that any moment Pakistan army will come and kill us all. I was to get this thumping noise of, army boots marching. Every night I went to sleep. My life almost ended there. I lost half my body weight. 8 months that I stayed in the refugee camp, I never had a full belly meal. I could never have a proper meal. Standing in the ration queue for hours and hours and hours. Going to the jungle to cut trees and branches of trees, bring them home, bring them to the camp, dry them up to be used for firewoods. There was not enough food in the house. Just one meal a day. Then go out and help the freedom fighters in Agartala GP Hospital in Joy Bangla ward as a nurse's assistant. One day a week I was a assistant of a pharmacist to package those homeopathic medicine for the refugees of other camps. Going to various freedom fighters training centers to entertain them with patriotic songs. We made a troupe of cultural team to go around to various camps to entertain the freedom fighters, singing, producing poetry, reciting poetry, and making dramas to encourage them and embolden their quest to go and liberate our country. And the final day, the people of India, we are so indebted to them. I'm only alive, perhaps physically, because India gave us shelter. Otherwise, the Pakistanis would have killed us. This is how millions of people has endured who were inside the Bangladesh and who fled to India. And our freedom fighters, and of course, the benevolent Indian government and the brave Indian army helped us economically, financially, with arms, ammunition, training, and giving us shelter. And then physically joining our freedom fighters, sacrificing thousands of lives. They helped us to liberate our country. And that's how we became an independent country. That's how we are an independent country. This was after a long struggle, a very, very precarious journey. The rapes, the massacres, the killing, the genocide, they just took a leaf out of the book of Hitler's Holocaust. This was a Bengali Holocaust. And you have to all bear in your mind that we have lived through this. Your ancestors, your fathers, your grandfathers, your grandmothers have come through this, and we have risen from the ashes. This country that we very fondly call Bangladesh hasn't come very cheap for us. And I would urge you to don't listen to anything else. Please, I am an eyewitness of 1971, and I am telling you, it was the most tumultuous time, was the most precarious time of my life and of every Bengalis who lived in that era. And that's how we became independent. Our fault was we just wanted a democratic government. We just wanted a power-sharing government. But they just started killing us indiscriminately on the 25th of March just to quell that demand. And we rose, and we have given him the best teaching lessons of their life. And we achieved our country, Bangladesh, we fondly call it. Thank you.